Welcome to MsMojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 times talk show hosts clapped back at guests.
It feels isolated. It feels like we are not, we aren't owed the same things.
For this list, we'll be looking at the most notable situations where the host felt compelled to challenge or completely shut down their guest during their talk show segment. What's your favorite talk show host clapback? And do you think it was warranted? Let us know in the comments. Number 10, Conan O'Brien schools Jennifer Garner. Late Night with Conan O'Brien. Let's kick things off with something lighthearted. In 2003, late-night host Conan O'Brien was interviewing the Alias actress when she briefly paused her anecdote to correct his grammar.
But there's a time when you snuck into the room to see what the...
I sneaked into the room. Snuck isn't a word, Conan, and you went to Harvard and you should know that.
She also pointed out that she expected more from a Harvard graduate. The audience ate up her savagery and cheered her on, while, like O'Brien, we started second-guessing ourselves. Not willing to let this burn slide, the host later pulled out a dictionary. And, well, if you thought snuck was a word, you'd be correct.
I keep a dictionary down here and I just found it. Just want to look at... Oh, what the hell? Look right here. Snuck, past and past part of sneak.
And he made quite a show of letting Garner know it. But even while being publicly shamed, the endearing star still came across as totally lovable.
You know what? I just realized you could kick my ass.
It's like, do you really want to...
No, I don't want to mess with you. I just showed that clip, and then I'm like, I'm going to pick on her now.
Yes, thank you.
Number 9. Oprah calls out 50 Cent's offensive lyrics. Oprah's next chapter. 50 Cent's feud with the renowned talk show host was something none of us saw coming, and apparently neither did she. So she had the rapper on her show where they aired out his grievances face to face.
I think it takes two people to feud.
And it's never been there.
I want to know, did you say things about me to be provocative, or did you really just not like me?
It turns out that he had heard Winfrey's criticism of rap music culture and had taken it rather personally. However, Oprah didn't back down, instead doubling down on everything she found problematic about it.
All of those things were in element.
Misogynist,
right. Every single one of those
views against
things.
Women, violence,
and
just things like that.
Those little things.
She also proved she'd done her homework, confronting him on some of the other comments he'd made about her. Still, this exchange showed that calling someone out doesn't always have to be hostile.
Right. Just like what you do in music, I do in heart-to-heart or soul-to-soul connection.
The pair were able to laugh together, finding mutual respect for one another. Number 8, Jimmy Kimmel drags Andy Dick, literally. Jimmy Kimmel Live. In 2007, Jimmy Kimmel had Andy Dick and Ivanka Trump as guests on his show.
Andy, you promised you would behave yourself.
Throughout their appearance, Dick refused to keep his hands to himself, despite Trump's obvious discomfort and Kimmel's many warnings. She laughed nervously and even tried to ward off his advances to no avail.
I need a sugar mama.
Eventually, Kimmel, assisted by security, was left with no choice but to drag the comedian off set. The host later admitted that Dick's unpredictability always left him a bit on edge. As we know, this wouldn't be the last time the comedian faced misconduct allegations either. The whole situation had us wincing, and would no doubt have been handled differently today.
Okay, I apologize for that. I'm sorry.
Number 7. Elizabeth Hasselbeck calls out Kathy Griffin over past comments. The View. During an appearance on The View, the comedian talked about her famously unfiltered sense of humor and how sometimes it lands and sometimes it doesn't. She confessed that if she finds something funny, she'll say it regardless of whose feelings might get hurt.
How far does comedy go?
No, she doesn't care. Wait a minute, if it's funny, it's funny. And look, they don't always work. I'm the first to admit they don't always work, but I go for it no matter what. Nothing's off the table.
Does it to you.
Sherry Shepard talked about being the butt of Griffin's sharp tongue, but took it all in good spirits. Her co-host Elizabeth Hasselbeck, however, called out the comedian for comments she'd made about the View hosts in the past.
You said things about people here that are A, untrue, and B, not so funny. So do you ever feel weird like them coming here, say, and sitting here and you kind of, promoting things?
Actually, this moment is what I live for.
Still, Griffin was just further energized by this interaction, reveling in the backlash. We know both women insisted things were cool, but it definitely didn't seem that way to those of us watching.
Well, they're feeding your curious fire there.
No, this is how I write my act.
It's cool. We're cool.
I'm cool if you're cool. I think it's
cool.
all for a joke. So cool.
It's all cool.
Number 6. Rosie O'Donnell challenges Tom Selleck, The Rosie O'Donnell Show. When Tom Selleck stopped by The Rosie O'Donnell Show in 1999, he thought he'd be talking up his latest flick, The Love Letter.
I didn't come on your show to have a debate. I came on your show to plug a movie. That's what I'm doing here.
However, since the interview took place shortly after the Columbine tragedy, and due to Selleck's association with the NRA, O'Donnell had other plans.
I can't speak for the NRA.
But you're their spokesperson, Tom, so you have to be responsible for what they say.
I'm not a spokesperson.
But if you put your name out and say,
don't
Tom
put words
Selleck.
in my mouth. I'm not a spokesperson.
Throughout the segment, she came at the actor from every angle, arguing that he was a, quote, spokesperson for the organization. He appeared blindsided by the confrontation, but replied calmly.
You know, I mean, this is the problem. Here's what happens. The people with opposing views, there is no compromise because you feel attacked, I feel attacked. You feel misunderstood.
I haven't attacked you.
Well, I think that in a different...
I've disagreed with you.
And I've disagreed with you as well.
To say things got frosty would be an understatement, though. O'Donnell later admitted that she regrets her approach.
And if you feel insulted by my questions, I apologize because it was not a personal attack. I was meant to bring up the subject as it is in the consciousness of so many today. That was my intent, and if it was wrong, I apologize to you.
On a semi-related note, Selleck stepped down from the NRA's board of directors in 2018. Number 5. Philip Schofield highlights Katie Hopkins' hypocrisy this morning. Katie Hopkins is a majorly controversial figure who regularly makes deeply offensive remarks.
You've chosen beautiful names for your children, and I would never think to judge them by that.
I do judge children by their names.
That's
I do make
terrible.
assumptions, and lots of other
Listen to what
parents
you're
do.
saying. You judge children.
Yes.
On their names.
Yes.
Case in point, during this segment on the British daytime talk show This Morning, she ranted about how she judges children by their first names. Holly Willoughby, who's typically known for her cheery and affable demeanor, simply couldn't keep her cool in the face of such snobbery and classist attitude.
It's very real.
It's
very real.
I don't believe. I don't
I'm a
believe
working
that.
class
Do you know
girl.
what? I don't buy
You must
that.
have missed
The
out
mums
so
that come
much
up
in
to
your
me,
life. If
I
you
haven't
don't
missed
see
out
that
on a
as
great
being
deal.
Together, ladies, you're all talking
Sorry,
together.
I can't help but get involved.
Her co-host, Philip Schofield, couldn't resist speaking up either. When Hopkins discussed the types of names she found abhorrent, including so-called geographical ones, he clapped back.
Brooklyn or London.
Your child's called India.
Yes, but you know, that's because it's not related to a location. That's because it's
India
related
isn't
to
a
a family.
location?
We only wish someone had handed him a microphone to drop. He certainly earned it. Number 4. David Letterman loses his cool on Harvey Pekar. Late Night with David Letterman. Comic book writer Harvey Pekar was practically a regular on Letterman's show, and you never quite knew what you'd get with each appearance.
You are terribly impolite.
I feel my club.
I invited you to play softball, and you make a rude gesture.
Not to you, that was to your audience.
Oh, well, sure. All right. Then you folks can take care of him if you want.
However, neither did the host, making for some very edgy moments. Letterman could usually match wits with his guests, but tensions rose to new heights after Pekar protested NBC's joint parent company, General Electric.
Harvey, this is very bad manners.
I don't care, man.
This is very, very inappropriate.
Number 2,
do I come to where you're working and badmouth the Veterans Administration?
Things only got more heated when he called Letterman a shill for the corporation. The host was not having it, however, and blasted his guests' inappropriate behavior.
You're a guest in my house, so shut up.
this ain't your house. We're wasting money.
You show up, you come over to my house, and you sneeze in the hors d'oeuvres.
Pekar was not invited back on the late night show for years following his 1988 appearance. Number 3. Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar take a stand against Bill O'Reilly. The View. If there's one thing we can say about the View panel, it's that they never back down from a fight. For instance, in 2011, the ladies fired back at a certain future president when he went on and on about President Obama's birth certificate.
No one has ever asked George Bush or said to George Bush, is Hawaii not part of the United States?
George Bush.
However, that was nothing compared to this hostile interaction with political pundit Bill O'Reilly after he made an offensive remark.
I don't want to sit here. I don't want to sit here. I don't.
You're outraged about
Muslims killed us on 9/11.
Goldberg lost her cool entirely, and she and Joy Behar took a stand by walking out. Meanwhile, the others continued to call O'Reilly out over his awful comment. Eventually, Goldberg and Behar returned after the guest kind of apologized. But it was Barbara Walters who got the final cutting comment.
Okay, now, you have written a book, and we're going to come back and talk about it, called Pinheads and Patriots. And at this point, it's very hard to see which you are. We'll be right back with more Bill O'Reilly.
Number 2, Jon Stewart confronts Jim Cramer, The Daily Show with Jon Stewart. Back in 2009, this then Daily Show presenter came gunning for several CNBC hosts, accusing them of misleading the public in the lead up to the 2008 financial crash.
Don't you want guys like me who have been in it to show the shenanigans? What else can I do?
You knew what the banks were doing, and yet were touting it for months and months.
Among them was Mad Money host Jim Cramer, who rebuked Stewart's criticism of the network. So when Cramer appeared on The Daily Show, Stewart unleashed his full wrath, challenging the presenter and exposing his hypocrisy.
I would encourage anyone who's in the hedge fund game to do it because it's legal, right? And it's a very quick way to make money. No one else in the world would ever admit that, but I don't care.
In fact, this dispute is often credited for putting Rule 212 in our lexicon. The conversation got extremely heated, with Stewart practically steamrolling his opposition.
So now to pretend that this was some sort of crazy, once-in-a-lifetime tsunami that nobody could have seen coming is disingenuous at best and criminal at worst.
Perhaps unsurprisingly, this confrontation left Cramer feeling pretty bruised. Meanwhile, Stewart was widely praised for his passion, forthrightness, and for vocalizing the outrage shared by many. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Ellen DeGeneres confronts John McCain on same-sex marriage views. The Ellen DeGeneres Show. When John McCain agreed to appear on Ellen, he must have known that the topic of marriage equality was bound to arise.
By the way, I was planning on having a ceremony anyway this summer, even though it wasn't legal, but I feel that at least I get to celebrate my love. And then it just so happened that I legally now can get married, like everyone should.
California had recently legalized same-sex marriage, and DeGeneres was already planning a ceremony with her partner Portia de Rossi. She challenged McCain on his conservative views and talked about how this was a human rights issue.
And it just feels like there's this old way of thinking that we are not all the same. We are all the same people, all of us. No, you're no different than I am. Our love is the same.
Unfortunately, she didn't manage to shift his opinion, but he technically didn't say no to walking her down the aisle. A few years later, DeGeneres faced another contentious interview over marriage equality with Caitlyn Jenner.
If that word marriage is really, really that important to you, I can go with it, you know? And
it's funny because you're still kind of a little not on board with it.
The aftermath of their chat supposedly ignited a feud between the pair. Selig stepped down from the NRA's board of directors in